Well, new on AM Extra, after a decade of putting on a live talk show downtown, the host of Who's the Ross is now releasing a fun new podcast.
Yeah, it will highlight classic and brand new interviews, giving you a behind the scenes look at what went into the show. And now that we're looking at the right camera, joining us live in the studio of the Talk Show and Now podcast, Aaron Ross with the meltiest strawberry McFlurry.
Hi, Mom.
That we could find. We found the one that would make the biggest mess and gave it to him.
We were going to take him off set, and you said, absolutely not. You want one. It's so good.
It's a dream I had once. That I'd be on a morning talk show eating McFlurry.
Eating ice cream.
Making an absolute mess out of myself.
I can tell you've worked in TV because your TV bites are just impeccable. But yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me today. Yes, the podcast. May I give you a present?
Oh, of course.
This is for you. As an interviewer, I did a little research on Ms. Emily Burris.
Oh.
And I found out that it's Wine Wednesday. You're a wine aficionado. You're a big Harry Potter fan. You may have worked at something called Harry Potter Land in Orlando.
I sure did.
And you want to be in the Gryffindor house.
I wanted to be Gryffindor
so I got you
bad.
a Gryffindor.
This is even better than the sorting.
Traveling
You
wine
know
cup.
more about Emily than I do,
research,
and I've
Aaron.
worked with her
Thank
for a
you.
while.
But I knew, since I didn't know you were going to be here, I asked off set, and I said, what is Emma like? And they said, flowers that are repurposed from set. So I got you these.
Impressive.
They have some
beautiful.
McFlurry juice on the bottom.
It's
How
great.
do you know?
I knew you liked a little extra McFlurry juice.
Yeah, just to go with my my foliage in the
I
morning.
love this.
Aaron, thank you so much. It was
Thank you for having me.
pleasure talking to you, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, thanks, folks. Bye, everybody.
That's all, folks. Yeah, no, thank you so much for being here. I know this is probably, does it feel weird for you to be like on the other side of the hot seat?
That's such a good question. It is
You don't
so,
have the reins today.
Well, I don't know. So far, I feel like we're sharing them together.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think he's doing a pretty good job.
Yes, it is different for me. Interviewing is something I've had a passion for my whole life.
Yes.
Now, sticky hands.
I'm going to give you another napkin because we gave you the world's meltiest McFlurry.
I know the lid just like popped off. Yeah, it is different to be on the other side. So I don't know.
Ask away.
Ask away. That was a very Kramer moment as I looked at all the cameras
We have
going.
some questions for you.
Please, yes.
So you did this, you did a talk show here in Portland for
Yes.
many years. You live in LA now, but you have gotten to interview some fantastic folks from the entertainment world, from sports, from music, all over. What interviews stand out? Like what
You know,
really
the first
sticks
episode of
in
this
the brain?
podcast and what it is 15 years of doing interviews. It's different, right? Normally you'd start with a podcast and then get to your late night talk show. I started a late night talk show and this is my trajectory and ended in podcast. But what's cool is that I'm repurposing interviews that we've done over 15 years, but I'm still doing this show in Los Angeles. So we have new interviews that are coming into the queue as well. But the very first episode starts with former Trailblazer Cliff Robinson.
Oh, wow.
And I grew up loving the Portland Trailblazers, watching Cliff Robinson, 8 years old, watching them in the finals. Cliff, famous for his headband, and he was on the show at Dante's 4 years ago with me. It was his very last interview that he ever did.
Oh, no way.
And it was such a joy to have him on. It was so cool. The audience was so hyped as you see a clip pop up of that. And Cliff was such a fascinating personality and very ahead of his time as a player, but as a person, he was a marijuana reform advocate, which, you know, obviously the culture has shifted in 30 years as what's acceptable in that regard. And we may or may not have advocated that night on stage, but it created an incredible, incredible chat. It was just such a joy. And he talked about his legendary headband, which I have here signed.
No
I feel like
way.
I should be headbanding right now.
Oh my gosh.
There we go.
That's cool.
Okay. Now
is-
the interview starts.
That is
Let's
so
go.
cool. Okay, now we're ready. Now
Okay.
we're warmed up.
I was going to say this is the look you should have come on with, and we're talking about
Well,
your.
we like to build up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Build momentum.
Yes.
Yeah, we came in with melting ice cream and gifts, and now, what is your? I'm going to say your favorite interview to come, or what are some interviews that are going to come?
The thing that I did 2 months ago was I interviewed the crew of Everything Everywhere All at Once, which won Best Picture. 2 weeks before the Oscar, we have
that
Oscar-nominated
movie.
costume designer Shirley Kurata on the show.
Wow.
I know, and she brought the production designer and the set decorator, so we got all the minutiae, all the inside scoop about this brilliant film. And that's online right now where you can hear on Who's the Ross, the podcast, my chat with them. And then in 2 weeks, I get to talk to the director. This is a teenage dream. I get to talk to the director of Billy Madison and Half Baked, Tamara Davis.
That's
Oh
amazing.
my
So, I mean, I'm living out my dream. I've manifested this thing.
How fun.
And I love getting to talk to these wonderful people. And people can hear on Who's the Ross podcast.
That's so cool. How much time do you get to spend with them? Because, you know, I mean, here on morning TV, we get like 4 or 5 minutes, right?
Well, the producer's over here throwing stuff at us to get me off the air.
There's voices screaming in my head. We gotta wrap it up, right?
And
You know,
in your ear.
We barely have any time. So when you get to kind of dive dive a little deeper on these podcast interviews in your show? What
It's
do
so
you do?
cool. I mean, sometimes you get an hour with somebody, and there's the space around it too. When you're live in the venue, sometimes it's the green room where you get something really cool. You get to hear from them. Sometimes it's after the show. I saw Cliff Robinson, the very first interview on the podcast. In my life, I had never met him until he stepped on stage.
Wow.
And then the week that he was on, I saw him 3 more times.
Oh my gosh.
And every time he'd be like, come over here, this is Ross. He's the next Jimmy Fallon. You got to meet Ross. And it was just like, so it's those sort of things where, again, you live out the dream and there is an expanded thing to it. And very often, and what I tell in the podcast is often the story of how I got the interview or what happened afterwards. And a lot of times, one person who enjoys themselves passes me on to the next person that I say, oh, hey, I'm a huge fan of such and such. Can you pass me on?
Yeah.
So people advocating for you, it's very DIY.
That's cool.
Networking in our industry is what
It's big.
really makes or breaks you. So.
Seriously, it's that's right. People passing stuff on, and like sometimes you need a couch to sleep on when you're visiting town.
Oh, do you
And-
eat this one?
I like, yeah.
Okay.
My mom was having the house fumigated tonight,
I
so because
see,
I'm staying
I
with her,
see.
so I'm visiting. So
That's right.
If you don't mind, if I
It's
mean,
a
no,
very
after
comfortable
Wine
couch.
Wednesday.
It's a very comfortable
Yeah,
couch. And
yeah.
I can always tell when anyone takes a nap on this couch because I come in the morning and the pillows are messed up and I reset them every day. So I keep it,
Oh,
I keep it
I'll leave
spick
it.
and span
I'll
around
have a
here.
cash tip. I promise.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm a classy guy, as you can tell from my McFlurry hands and headband.
Erin,
Yeah,
thank
you
you so
are.
much. It's been so great to have you here.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
stopping by, and hope you enjoy your time in Portland. Again, you got to check out the new podcast, Who's the Russ? All the best from his talk show, now streaming into your earbuds. You can listen wherever you find your favorite podcasts on Spotify, or go to who'stheruss.com for more.
Certainly, and it's certainly going to be a fun thing to listen to if it's even a fraction of what we have experienced this morning.
Yes.
All right. It's
Powered by McFlurry.
Powered
Sponsor
by-
of Who's the Ross?
Brought to you by some sugar at 8 o'clock in the morning.